So I've not put out a video in, I don't know, a week or two, busy with summer stuff. I was about to dive back into things. Fantasy Flight Games announced a new expansion, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for Marvel Champions. I am super, super excited. It's not Defenders, it's not Fantastic Four, not Midnight Suns, but it's really exciting for multiple reasons. As a bit of a less, big name kind of expansion, it kind of suggests the game is going well. They're kind of spacing things out. They said in the kind of announcement for this, they're putting more resources into Marvel Champions. They've got lots of stuff coming up for it. The game isn't going anywhere, so that's really exciting. But I love the S.H.I.E.L.D. cards we already have in the game, so expanding on that is going to be fantastic. So let's dive into it. And there's only a 30-second announcement, really. It's like a little kind of teaser, cinematic, comic kind of thing. But I'm going to break it down kind of screen by screen and talk about different things throughout, such as new villains we could get, new heroes, what aspects they'll be in, new aspect cards, how it'll work with all the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, all the things I'm looking forward to. So it's kind of a analysis / speculation / educated guesses. So let's go into it. So it starts off with this alarm going off. And what does this mean? My first thought was maybe this could be on a helicarrier. My second thought, we'll come to in a moment. Third thought is maybe it could be something like Alpha Flight Station or, some kind of S.H.I.E.L.D. space station thing, which would be kind of tied to some other things. So we'll get into that as well. But really my second thought, which is the one that stuck with me the most, is it could be the Raft. The Raft is basically a supervillain prison. It's a place where the big baddies are kept and it's run and operated by S.H.I.E.L.D. And whenever I've seen the Raft come up in anything, inevitably villains have broken out of it, which is kind of funny because it's meant to be like unbreakoutable. That's the whole point of it. That's why the supervillains go there. But since it's got those ties to S.H.I.E.L.D., I think it's pretty iconic in a way. I think a lot of people will recognize the Raft if they play video games, read any comics, TV shows, bits like that. So I think this is a strong possibility. It might not have anything to do with this, but I think we could see the Raft incorporated in an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. expansion. If not in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. expansion, when? That is my question. And I think it could have some really interesting villains tied to it because they're probably breaking out, let's face it. If it is included, this is speculation. But some interesting ones I thought of when I, went onto the wiki and looked who had actually been in there. We've got the leader, which is, Hulk gamma radiation made strong. When this guy got gamma radiation, his brain went big. So I think that could be a really interesting scenario, maybe more forwarding or scheme-based, maybe a bit like the Red Skull scenario, or maybe, Collector 2, Sinister 6. I'm not really sure. Thought it's interesting. We could have a return to Rhino. Imagine Rhino from the core set is breaking out and getting his revenge on us. I think that could be really fun. Wrecking Crew, again, kind of a similar kind of theme, lower level criminal villain to my understanding. But that scenario, has some flaws, we'll say. I'm actually going to talk about this scenario a lot in an upcoming video. Revisiting them could be fun. And I know a lot of people were disappointed we didn't get a Doc Ock scenario in Sinister Motives. Well, Sinister Motives had a sort of a subtle S.H.I.E.L.D. theme. Spider-Man Miles Morales' pre-con came with loads of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. Nick Fury was talking a lot throughout the campaign, and there were a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. upgrades in the campaign. So there's already a tie between the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff and Spider stuff in the kind of Marvel Champions kind of lore and the kind of stuff that's happened. So I don't think this is impossible either, and it could have some interesting implications. But again, this is all speculation. Next up, we see Advanced Idea Mechanics, also known as AIM, as you can see in this picture here. It's the only screenshot I could get where it didn't have a massive sort of targeting sort of reticle on the screen. It's only a couple frames, so this is what it looks like without any of that. And these are basically evil scientists, to my understanding. They've got some sort of ties to Hydra, but the big prominent character from AIM is MODOK, which I think is really, really interesting. So maybe we could see the Doomsday Chair modular set, which is all about MODOK, make its return, because the only expansion to ever use a core set, modular set, is Rise of Red Skull, because it had a Hydra theme and there was some Hydra stuff in the core set. Well, now we're having something to do with AIM. It's going to be in this expansion, and we've got an AIM sort of related modular in, again, the core set. So I'd be surprised if this wasn't used for some reason, and if it's not used, someone's probably going to use it. I'm probably going to use it. I love changing up the modulars. So I thought this was, an interesting idea. Now, seeing this picture here doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get an AIM scenario, though I do think it's very likely. This artwork here, I think, is very probably from maybe an environment card or a main scheme or a side scheme, because it looks kind of a horizontal thing to me. I think if you went vertical more, you wouldn't see that much. So I can see them cutting off sort of the building on the left and kind of having AIM with those people there being part of a side scheme or main scheme. Now, since we mentioned MODOK, MODOK could actually be a villain in this expansion because he's, so associated with AIM, which is kind of a bit of an enemy of S.H.I.E.L.D., just evil scientist kind of guys. So MODOK could be a villain scenario. And since AIM kind of have some ties to Hydra, and I think Hydra have, a long history with S.H.I.E.L.D. and infiltrating and kind of, that kind of thing, I don't know if we're going to see Red Skull specifically, but he's kind of my representative on the screen for Hydra. Now, we could have a return from Red Skull. That would also be kind of poetic. You know, with this fight into the game's lifespan, he was the big boss of the first expansion. What if he made his return? Because he's been in the Raft as well, I believe. But that's just really huge speculation. This is speculation. But if there wasn't some kind of Hydra theme here, I would be a little bit surprised. But we'll have to see. The other idea I thought that might be quite relevant to S.H.I.E.L.D. are the scrolls. Now, this could be, I don't know, Secret Invasion, Secret War related. It could even tie into the Fantastic Four coming in the future, which would tie in with what the MCU is doing. And although Marvel Champions is not based on the MCU, it definitely takes some inspiration and cues, because if it's popular in the MCU, why wouldn't you tap into that? So again, super speculation going on here. But if that alarm is maybe to do with something, you know, more spaceshipy, space station-y, could be there. So I think these interesting ideas, this is kind of what I'm looking at. Let me know if you guys have any ideas, though. I'm not a super comics expert, although I'm starting to pick up more and more. But these were my thoughts of what we could see. Next up, the kind of short cinematic. This is just 30 seconds, by the way. We're only like 5 seconds into it. I'm thinking these are going to be the course, so the expansion box heroes. And on the right here, who could it be? Is this Daredevil finally? No, this is Nick Fury. You can see the little sort of thing on his head is not a horn, as I was maybe hopeful. No. This is his eye patch, like, strap. And then on the left, I feel like the obvious one to go with Nick Fury might be Maria Hill. But I'm not sure, because her hair is crazy, and I don't see Maria Hill having crazy hair like that often. But I feel like it makes so much sense to have Maria Hill and Nick Fury as the expansion box heroes. It's just, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D. box. You have Maria Hill and Nick Fury. It's just, it's easy. It's low-hanging fruit, basically. But we'll come back to this. So I do think it's probably Maria Hill, but there's another candidate that I think could be unexpected, quite interesting, and realistically quite possible. I also want to say quickly, if they are the box heroes, I think the aspects will be justice and leadership respectively. Although the Maria Hill ally is leadership, I think Nick being the, you know, leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., the most famous one, at least, the director, it's got to be him in leadership, right? Which will leave justice for Maria Hill, but maybe it won't be. You know, we are due protection for an expansion box hero. I don't really think it suits most S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, if I'm honest, so there is an exception to that I will talk about soon. So I just feel like justice and leadership makes so much sense for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box, but we will see. Definitely leadership for Nick Fury, though. I mean, it just has to be, right? Next up, I want to talk about the less likely heroes that we could see in this wave. This will be wave 9, I believe. We have Agent 13, Agent Coulson, and Yelena, who I want to kind of talk about together here. These are all kind of agents, spies, you know, they have S.H.I.E.L.D. ties, and Agent 13 actually has 2 allies of her in the game. We have an agent for Agent Coulson as well in the game. We don't have a card for Yelena in the game, but she is, you know, kind of getting featured in the MCU a lot at the moment. She is basically the second Black Widow. So in an expansion called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we could definitely see these as agents and spies, right? But the thing that puts me off that makes me think it's less likely is that if we have Nick Fury and maybe Maria Hill, on top of already having Black Widow in the game, do we need 3 more agent characters, or at least, you know, 1 or 2 of them? I don't know if these are going to bring anything super unique to the game when there are other, maybe stronger, more different options. We've seen in Sinister Motives, they went for, you know, Spider-Ham and Special Doctor, SPDR, Spider, Penny Parker, because they had more different powers. They were more kind of interesting. They could do them more differently than another character whose powers are basically Peter Parker, but, you know, different name and face kind of thing. So I thought this might tie into that. They might not feature these characters here, but it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so maybe. Dum Dum Dugan, I don't know if he's really going to sell boxes or anything, but he does have a hat, which makes him inherently very, very cool. He has been, I think, director, or at least deputy director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's got quite a history in the comics, you know, going back to the Howling Commandos, which I think ties back to, like, the Captain America war stuff. I'm not 100% on all that, but I don't think he's quite enough to make it in as a hero here, but I thought he was interesting to talk about. A bit of a strange one here that I know you guys are looking at is, I think it's pronounced Quasar, but we'll call him Wendell here. That's his, you know, actual alter ego kind of name. His origin starts kind of with S.H.I.E.L.D. He was part of the super agents kind of thing. He went by the name of Marvel Boy, and that's kind of interesting if they were to kind of, you know, call back to that and incorporate it. I think it's unlikely, but at the same time, he has a Guardian trait as an ally already in the game. What if he was S.H.I.E.L.D. alter ego, then Guardian on his hero form? Wouldn't that be really cool in how you could start to use those cards together? He could bring Guardian support back to the game, kind of expand them more. So I think that's really, really interesting. I think that's a bit of a out there kind of possibility, but I thought it's very, really fun to talk about. Another less likely hero that I think is maybe more likely and kind of borders on my sort of likely heroes is the character that I think it could be instead of Maria Hill in the box, in the kind of silhouettes we saw as well. And that is going to be Abigail Brand. So my partner told me about this. She said someone on Facebook had suggested it. So this is not an original idea or anything, but I looked into it and I think it's a good idea because she's got that kind of crazy hair, a little bit like what we saw in the silhouette. But more than that, she actually has the neck thing going on with her jacket, which we also saw in the silhouette that I forgot to point out, but it's there if you go and look at it, which Maria Hill doesn't have in her art, and in most of the pictures I could find of her on, Google. I think this is maybe a candidate. So Abigail Brand is a half alien, half mutant. Her parent was like an alien, human, sorry, with the X gene, and then one was an alien. So that's kind of crazy and weird and edgy and comic-y, but perfect for Marvel Champions, definitely. And she's part of S.H.I.E.L.D, which is a subdivision of S.H.I.E.L.D, which deals with alien stuff, which could call back to the scroll kind of thing, or maybe the alarm being on, the Alpha Flight Station or something like that. I think she's really, really unique. She has kind of energy powers from being kind of having the X gene, being kind of that mutant heritage, but she's also kind of an alien, which is kind of crazy and interesting. So she's very, very different. They could give her some really, really interesting cards. So I'm actually kind of hopeful that's her instead of Maria Hill, because I don't know if Maria Hill will be different enough from, I don't know, Nick Fury. I mean, what is she going to do that's particularly different that Nick couldn't do in terms of being represented in a card game? So this is another option that I think is really, really cool, and I actually kind of hope it is her. And hey, she's green, maybe she could be protection. We are due a protection character in the expansion box, so maybe. Now, let's talk about who I think is more likely to be a hero pack this wave, and we have Falcon and Winter Soldier. Where are they? We didn't get them in the Avengers waves. I think they were the biggest sort of standout, people missing from the Avengers waves. So since they have S.H.I.E.L.D ties, I think it makes so much sense to release them here. And if we get, hero packs with Avenger traded heroes, which I think these both should have, it's going to kind of be a soft return to the Avengers, so we can get more Avengers support, because they gave mutants and X-Men so much support. The Avengers support kind of feels bare bones. So getting some Avengers support from these guys being included as hero packs seems phenomenal. These guys don't really need an introduction, but I think if we did get them, Falcon would probably be leadership, because he's actually on the Power of Leadership art as well as being a leadership ally. So I think that kind of makes sense. He's got the aerial trait, and I should say this wave, definitely this expansion box, is being headed up by Tony, who is the designer who replaced Michael Boggs, who previously did the Mojo Mania scenario pack, which was phenomenal, and Next Evolution, which is a really, really strong expansion, and most of the X-Force heroes as well, who are really fun and well received for the most part. So really, really exciting in that regard. I'm really excited to see his second box, because his first one knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. I feel it was really good, So Falcon could expand on the aerial stuff that he kind of started with. Angel, maybe. Winter Soldier could have preparation cards. Black Widow has Winter Soldier as her signature ally, and she has preparation, so a lot of people have speculated this on for a while. This is not an original thought, but if we get Winter Soldier, he could be the one to bring new preparation cards, although we could maybe see them sprinkled in with different characters, because they seem to fit the kind of S.H.I.E.L.D and Agent theme pretty well. So yeah, could see aerial and preparation stuff with these two characters. The only reason I think we might not get these characters is if they're holding onto them for a full return to Avengers box in the future. But I really think the S.H.I.E.L.D theme, the Agent theme, is maybe not strong enough to sustain itself without maybe a little bit of Avenger help. As soon as people maybe hear Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, maybe, and this is speculation, has Avenger support in it, people have a lot of Avenger characters, they're going to be inclined to get them. It makes business sense, and I think we all want these characters as well, so it's good for us as well. So yeah, I would be alarmed if we didn't see at least one of these, probably both of these in the expansion wave. Now, next up, and I'm a little bit less sure about these, are the kind of the female kind of equivalents, because we typically have a gender balance with, one male hero, one female hero in the box, and then, two each for the hero packs. So I'm thinking we're definitely getting Mockingbird. I think she's really interesting. She's very different. She's got kind of the, I don't know, stick or I think staff kind of thing going on. She got a cool design. She's already in the game as a signature ally and basic ally, and she was part of the core set just like Maria Hill and Nick Fury. We had a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D stuff going on there. So I think she kind of deserves it. I'm pretty sure she has some kind of like super soldiery kind of abilities, a little bit like Cap, maybe not exactly, but I'm pretty sure she gets that. So that could be more interesting than just another, agent doing agent stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll see her. And all this to me points to having the protection aspect hero pack for the S.H.I.E.L.D wave. Quake, I think, is less likely. I think she's slightly less known or less prominent in Marvel Champions, at least. And She's kind of interesting though. She's, Quake, because of earthquakes, she can shake things apart. That's a really cool power. And she also has the Avenger trait, just like the Mockingbird ally you can see here. So if we're having a soft return to Avengers, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Mockingbird, Quake, 4 new Avenger heroes, potentially, if they do that. I don't know if they will. She's a Justice ally. Probably Justice, because that's what's left over from the other ones. I don't know if I said this, but, Winter Soldier, probably going to be aggression if he's in the game, right? Because he's the Winter Soldier, kind of assassin / soldier. Big metal arm kind of makes sense to me. Although I guess metal has a Colossus kind of protection-y kind of history, but I don't think so. So that's kind of what I feel like we might be looking at. But Quake is the one I'm least certain of. I think maybe if Abigail Brand is in the expansion box, we could see Maria Hill here instead being the Justice Hero pack, which could be kind of interesting. However, Marvel Champions has worked on a kind of a formula, if you will. We had a core box, then we had a trilogy of expansions, 3 expansions form that trilogy. Then we had a standalone box, that was Sinister Motives. Then we had another trilogy, this has just been the mutant expansions we've just received. This seems to be another standalone expansion. So the only real precedent we have for this is Sinister Motives, which was a split wave. We had, Web Warriors and Champions. So could this be another split wave? Maybe these S.H.I.E.L.D. heroes, potential heroes aren't strong enough, they want to just include other things. Maybe we'll see, I don't know, Falcon and Winter Soldier, but then we might see some Champions or Web Warriors or even something different. And I think Champions have some interesting choices. Brawn could be a really interesting way to return to Gamma heroes to kind of, help out Hulk. She-Hulk, I don't even know if she actually needs help anymore. She's actually pretty decent, although I don't think she'd hate it. She wouldn't be overpowered if she had a few more cards that worked with her specifically. But Brawn is interesting. Moon Girl, I think we talked about this on the podcast, could have such an interesting design for Marvel Champions. Maybe even like, Penny Parker. We could have Devil Dinosaur as one card, Moon Girl as another. I think that's really interesting. She's Genius as well, so she might work with all the Genius stuff we already have. Maybe that kind of thing. So if they return to Champions, there are definitely other Champion characters we could have. There's also like Vivian, Snowguard, probably a few more. They could also return to Web Warriors. I know a lot of people were disappointed we didn't get a few different ones like Spider-Man 2099. Maybe they just split the wave and do it there because, as I said earlier, Sinister Motives kind of had a S.H.I.E.L.D. theme. Maybe the S.H.I.E.L.D. box might tie back a little bit to Web Warriors. Don't know. Could be possible. Next, the kind of 30-second cinematic, which we're probably like halfway through now, cuts to this kind of picture of a Helicarrier. What is this from? Now, this doesn't strike me as a treachery or bad card because it's just a Helicarrier hanging around. So I'm thinking maybe it could be a side scheme, but it looks friendly. Maybe it's a player side scheme this art could be used for. New player side scheme could be really fun. Maybe this suggests sort of S.H.I.E.L.D. support coming in. I think that's fun. I think that kind of is very likely when I think about it. So that is my best guess for this. Then it moves on to kind of a scrolling kind of set of dossiers for S.H.I.E.L.D., I think. And I've kind of taken a couple of screenshots and kind of stuck them together so you can see the whole thing kind of comes from one image. This could just be one card. It could just be art from the kind of campaign book that comes with the expansion. I'm not really sure, but it feels like there are clues here. I'm pretty sure the lady with long hair kind of toward the top here with kind of her, her back to us, that looks like Mockingbird to me. I don't know who she's talking to. I don't know who the lady with the sunglasses is on the left here. It looks like she's getting in or out of a car. Maybe she's a target. Maybe she's someone we have to protect. The person at the bottom left here, I actually watched Web Warriors video covering the new stuff, and he said he thought this was Winter Soldier. I think that's kind of likely because he wears a cap in the movies to kind of conceal his identity a little bit, be a little bit less obvious. But doesn't wear a red cap. I don't necessarily think the rest of the face looks like Winter Soldier from the other kind of comic kind of artwork I've seen for him. I did look it up. So I'm not 100%. Maybe I'm reading too much into these images here. It might not be relevant at all. Maybe this is just kind of some sort of environment or kind of support card that's just, S.H.I.E.L.D. information. It could be intel, evidence, something like that. Or like I say, just something from the campaign book. But maybe these are clues for us. Maybe that's actually some of Winter Soldier's alter ego art. I don't know. But it's interesting to speculate. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think these characters might be or hint at? What do you think about the other heroes I've talked about here? What about the villains that we potentially looked at? But this does it for what was shown. So everything else is going to be kind of speculation on what kind of aspect cards we could see and what I personally want to see in the upcoming expansion. So we have Monica Chang as an existing card in Justice who really helped out the surveillance team card from the core set. This is something from Sinister Motives, which had that S.H.I.E.L.D. theme, helping core set cards. Well, we've talked about it on the podcast. Other people have talked about it, not an original thought. We could get an equivalent for Monica Chang to help out Tag Team, another core set S.H.I.E.L.D. card that is maybe a little bit lacking compared to modern cards. Maybe needs some help. Maybe needs that extra card to support it. I'm also excited to see more preparations for Black Widow, which I hinted at talking about Winter Soldier, but we could see, these with anyone or, back of the pack cards. if we're going to get new preparations that are actually going to help Black Widow and not be, kind of really weak or something, like the other preparations we keep getting, and I say keep getting as if it hasn't only happened once or twice since Black Widow released, this is the time that she could get these new preparations. Now, we have Government Liaison and Field Agent, which came in with sinister motives because they had that S.H.I.E.L.D. thing going on. I'm pretty sure Government Liaison is going to be reprinted. This makes me worried that we're going to get a lot of reprinted S.H.I.E.L.D. cards, because we have a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. cards from previous expansions, Core Set especially, Wave 1, and, Sinister Motives. They're probably going to reprint this. It's just a resource generator for S.H.I.E.L.D. cards. We're obviously going to get a lot of new S.H.I.E.L.D. cards, so that makes sense. But this card also will get stronger because it will have new S.H.I.E.L.D. cards. Same with Field Agent. We're probably going to get more S.H.I.E.L.D. allies, which will be, they'll mean more targets for Field Agent to protect. Next up, I want to talk about these cards, which also came in Sinister Motives, Dum Dum Dugan, Homeland Intervention, and Global Logistics. These are all cards which, when you use them, you have to exhaust other S.H.I.E.L.D. cards to get a bonus. And not only could we get, obviously, other S.H.I.E.L.D. cards to exhaust to use these, they might lean into this as a theme. We might see other cards which now benefit from exhausting S.H.I.E.L.D. cards, cards like Homeland Intervention in aggression or protection or leadership, other things for Dum Dum Dugan in other aspects to exhaust, so he as a basic card can start to be used elsewhere as well. I think that's really, really cool. I'm hoping to see that, fingers crossed. There is more I could talk about here. There'll be more targets for the Agent 13 basic ally to ready up, more S.H.I.E.L.D. supports hopefully. But that's going to do it for the speculation here. Generally really excited for the expansion. Lots of cool characters that we could get, whether it's a split wave or S.H.I.E.L.D. focused, and I'm excited. Lots of cool villains and kind of almost a return to theme we could do both for heroes and villains. Not sure if we will. Lots of new stuff we could do as well. Like I say, could be some scroll stuff that could tie into Fantastic Four or secret-y stuff. So yeah, I'm excited for this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Who knew? Who could have predicted it? See you guys next time. Bye. Oh, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm sorry to say it, but it does help the channel. Let's try again. Goodbye.